This is an exciting day. This is a big day. This is the launch of the Disrupt Media channel here on YouTube. Michael Heaver here, alongside my co-host, the one and only Mr. Andre Walker. Andre, how are you, mate?
Fantastic, and it is an exciting day, not just for you and I, but I think for Conservatives and Patriots and Brexiteers right across the planet. The launch of Disrupt Media, we're going to change the landscape, baby.
Well, look, I've had my channel running on YouTube with lots of great support. I know you've got yours as well, Andre. So I'm a big believer in collaboration. And what we're going to do here on the Disrupt Media channel is me and you talk about issues that otherwise, are ignored by mainstream media or aren't given the coverage really that they should have. And I think it's an enormously exciting time in terms of British media. So I'd urge those watching this, please make sure you've hit subscribe and the bell so you don't miss our regular videos that we do here on the channel. But Andre, what's your overview of where we are in terms of the British media landscape?
Well, I'm extremely worried. I mean, I've seen all the attacks that have gone on against GB News. Now, I'm not GB News. It's not for me to defend them. But this idea that people shouldn't sponsor right-wing channels, they should only sponsor left-wing channels, I think is grossly unfair. I'd like to see us in a position like we are with the newspapers, where, if you're very interested in, say, public secretary type stuff, you buy The Guardian. Whereas if you're more interested in Brexit type stuff, you buy the Daily Express. But all we've got at the moment is just the same channels churning out the same stuff. And one of the things that really frustrates me is the whole issue of diversity. And I'll tell you why. Because when you look at people who work at the BBC, who work at Sky, and so on and so forth, they're all from the same background. They're not, people off a council estate in Sunderland. They're all still from the same background. They just happen to be a female version of the posh home counties, private schooly, university educated type people. And I actually think we need to give a broader range of opinion, which is why, bluntly, the media was so out of touch during the Brexit debate. They're not bad people. They're not evil. It's just they all come from a particular stratum of society, and that stratum was pro-European.
Well, I've got to say, I mean, the pathetic whinge-a-thon that we've seen ensue on Twitter over GB News, a channel that hasn't even broadcast a single second yet. I think, Andre, what this shows is really a degree of intellectual insecurity from some of these bleeding heart lefties who just want to lash out and attack GB News before they've even seen any of it. And I think, I'm with you. Greater choice in the media, including right here on the Disrupt Media channel, can only be a good thing. What are all these bleeding heart lefties so worried about? They've always got the BBC, haven't they?
I always think that part of the problem is that they can't win unless they kind of hold people down. Because if you look at the situation we were in with the European Union, paying for this military force, paying for that diplomatic service, paying for this unelected government, you would never actually agree to this unless you were kind of forced into it. And so they always want us to just kind of roll our eyes and go, oh, well, this is the status quo. Let's put up with it. Well, we don't have to. I mean, I cannot believe that somebody has the gall to watch the BBC and then say that television news should not be biased in any way. I mean, it's just total hypocrisy.
Or Channel 4 News. I mean, take your pick, really.
Yeah,
but Andre, Colin Brazier, Sky News presenter, I believe he was at Sky for around, over 20 years, 23 years. Pretty respected journalist. Great hire, I think, for GB News. What do you make of that?
It appears to be a bit of an eclectic mix at GB News, doesn't it? I mean, I think their idea of having individual shows with their own personality, I think is a huge thing. I've got to be honest with you. I mean, I know a lot of people at Sky, as presumably you do. We've both done things like paper reviews and so on and so forth. But Colin Brazier wasn't the person I most expected when they said former Sky anchorman leaves. But, I don't want to expose anybody as a massive Tory. But I do think they're coming up with some good people. My concern is this. I don't know whether a big, fully funded, glitzy news channel can actually make money in the way that GB News might have to. Because if you think about it, the reason that Sky News is able to be successful is because when Rupert Murdoch launched it, he wanted to have a news channel in with the package of other stuff. Because he said, look, if you're going to have sports, if you're going to have entertainment, you've got to have news. So it comes as part of a package. I don't know if a standalone TV channel will work. But I don't think it matters because, we're not the shareholders. What matters is there's a direction of travel. And that direction of travel is to take back control of the media in the same way that we took back control of government.
Yeah, and I certainly think, look, for GB News to be successful, and it's already, it's attracting a lot of interest, but I think it really needs to differentiate itself. And I think that's where the challenge will be, and time will tell. But look, we wish it will. Be keeping an eye on that as ever. Now, Andre, I just wanted to mention to you YouGov poll that came out yesterday. Quite interesting. Conservatives on 41%, Labour on 36%, the Greens ahead of the Lib Dems 7 to 6%, and Reform UK on 3%. But interestingly as well, Sir Keir Starmer, of course, the Labour leader, down 2 on the question who would be the best PM to 31. Boris Johnson now leading again, 33 to 31 versus Starmer. Guido Fawkes said this is the first time in half the year that Boris has overtaken Starmer. And back in November, Guido reported, YouGov reported a 10-point lead for Starmer on the question. What do you think's happened?
Look, I think the Conservative strategy, and I used to work as a Conservative staffer, is always to think about the end game, the next general election. And so what they do is they're not particularly short-termist. What they will do is get close to the election and they will hope everything comes together simultaneously. I think that's what they think they're doing at the moment. This lockdown's taken a bit longer than expected. But ultimately, what are they going to be judged on? The vaccine rollout in reality. And of course, that has been, by any standard, a huge success. What I can't understand, though, these are Westminster voting intentions. I'm really interested in what's going to happen in the next local elections, because I think that people will want to give the mainstream parties an absolute kicking. Presumably that means that you would vote for Reform UK. But obviously the issue that has previously been had, as you will well know, with both UKIP and the Brexit Party, is having enough candidates across the country, and B, having candidates of a sufficient quality that they can be relied upon. And I just don't know what you think as to whether they're going to be able to roll that out, because I would like to see a Reform UK council candidate on every single ballot paper, simply because we need an opportunity to say, look, we're voting against this lockdown.
It's an interesting one. Obviously, it's a unique set of circumstances. Obviously, we saw elections delayed last year, and there's been a bit of ambiguity as to whether we'd even see elections take place this May. So I guess my question would be how plugged in people are to the fact there's a huge set of elections, don't forget. Everything from Scottish Parliament, Welsh Parliament, Police and Crime Commissioner elections, local elections, London Assembly, London mayoral. And I guess I question whether, given that it's sort of been up in the air as to whether these elections are even going to take place, how plugged in people are into that. What's the campaigning going to look like, for instance? How much are people going to see in terms of political campaigns what they normally would under normal circumstances? And what's it going to look like in terms of media coverage? Are there going to be proper debates had, for instance, in terms of what's going on right across the UK? These are all questions in this unique set of circumstances I'm interested to find out. And by the way, guys, in the comments below, do let us know. Are you plugged into? Are you interested in these May elections? Are you convinced they're going to take place or not?
Well, I'll tell you the thing that's interesting, and I'd have to check my history books a little bit, but I'm fairly certain that there was never an occasion where absolutely everybody in the country voted on a local election day until the police and crime commissioners came in. And even then, I don't know what happens in various other Wales and Scotland and whatever. And so that will be unusual when it comes to local elections. And so then we will get a much better picture, because one of the big problems you normally have with local elections is, okay, the Conservatives have done better than Labour. Yeah, but then again, Manchester wasn't electing and all the home counties were. So sometimes the figures can be skewed by the sheer geography of it. But that won't happen this time. And I think just because those police and crime commissioners, if we could turn the police and crime commissioners into a referendum on, bluntly, the policing of the lockdown, then I think that would be a very, very, very interesting thing indeed.
What do you make of Sir Keir Starmer, Andre? Because I certainly think, I think he was given a bit of an easy ride by the media who feel quite comfortable with him. You saw recently, in terms of when he was at the dispatch box, that exchange that he had with Boris Johnson in terms of the support for the European Medicines Agency, EU agency, that was a bit of a mess for him. And obviously at this point, to see Boris Johnson back ahead in the polling for best PM, I mean, there's some murmurings, there always will be from the Corbynistas, but there's some murmurings, I think, in Labour circles. Is Starmer the man actually that can take Labour back into government?
Well, I think the simple answer is no. I always compare him to William Hague. If you think about William Hague, John Major led the Conservatives into a disastrous election in 1997. By the way, the fact that the media still listen to John Major, one of the most discredited men in British politics, is unbelievable. Unbelievable. I mean, he took the Conservative Party down to 27% in the polls. It's absolutely astonishing how bad he was as a Prime Minister. But anyway, then William Hague comes in, and William Hague was a better leader of the Conservative Party. There is no doubt about it. The problem is, still nobody was going to vote for him in the 2001 general election. And I think that's exactly the same with Keir Starmer. First of all, people take the election, the general election in Britain seriously. Whilst Keir Starmer gets the competence tick, he's not going to get any more votes, not significantly more.
Yeah, I think it's got to be extremely disappointing polling for the Labour Party. But as I said, it looks like, as we speak now, that we are going to have elections in May. Of course, we have to wait and see. But guys, look, that was the first episode of the Disrupt Media channel. As I said, me and Andre are going to be doing these regularly. So please make sure you've hit the subscribe button and you've hit the bell so you don't miss our next video. Going to be doing lots of these, hoping to provide you. And by the way, if there's things you would want us to talk about as well, do let us know in the comments. Before we go, Andre, anything else to say?
Well, just to say thank you to everybody who's been an early adopter of the Disrupt channel. You and I have been talking about this for a little while. Obviously, I'm hoping that this is just a little embryo that goes towards more people within our movement and within our group working together. But I think it's small acorns. So first of all, just thank you to everybody who's got involved. And thank you to you, Michael. Bit of a legend, former MEP, but we don't hold that against you. And it's great to work with you.
Cheers, Andre. And thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you soon.